Welcome to the F1 Debate Show. We talk about Max Verstappen being the next prodigy in Formula 1.
We talk about Ron Dennis leaving Formula 1.
We talk about the winners of the F1 Debate Show's Driver of the Day awards.
And we award Driver of the Day from the Brazilian Grand Prix.
The biggest news coming out of Sao Paulo is the amazing drive, almost godly drive, by Max Verstappen, the very young Dutchman, number 33 at Red Bull Racing. He did an unbelievable race at Interlagos in the wet. Very similar to, as you may have guessed, three-time world champion and Senna from Brazil, obviously the homeland of Sao Paulo. He did some amazing drives from there, obviously winning at home, and some unbelievable races, especially in the wet. Now, Max Verstappen, obviously very, very young, as we've said before, younger than me and JT, did an absolutely unbelievable race around there in the rain. Now, if you didn't watch the race at Interlagos, the Brazilian Grand Prix that was on, which was the previous race, the penultimate round of the 2016 season, it was up and down, but mostly down if you were sitting on the couch, and down for the drivers in the pit lane. They were very much on idle, sitting behind the red flag and the safety car, and Bert Mylander, who did win Driver of the Day award. No, I'm joking.
You should have.
So yes, obviously it was a pretty boring race. Yeah. But not for Max Verstappen. He did some unbelievable overtakes, around 13 overtakes in the remaining 16 laps of the race. Now, it was very hard, it was very strategic and all that to get to get over a half race distance and get full points and blah blah blah. But Max Verstappen kept a cool head above that and basically drove an amazing race, doing unbelievable overtakes. I'd say around 2 a lap, possibly even more. And yeah, never less than one major overtake in one lap. He did some unbelievable people as well on the grid at the moment who have been looking up. And if they didn't know how great of a driver Max Verstappen was, they'll have definitely known about it in this race. Now, I mean, obviously Max has been under the spotlight in the last few races, obviously for doing a bit of tricky overtaking, some pretty undercutting and blah 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 and stuff like that, especially after Mexico, obviously with Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo being on the podium and their little squabbles and handbags of dawn on the track. But if he had anything to prove, as we've said about Max before, if he has anything to prove, he doesn't let any of the media's negativity get under his skin. He just drives like how he wants. He does what he wants. That's the thing, Max Verstappen, he does what he wants in the car. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's almost like, yes, he's a team player, yes, he drives for Red Bull in the car, outside the car. But when he gets in the car, it's Max Verstappen land 24/7, and that's what he does. I mean, all this media negativity, as I've just said, JT, from Mexico and things like that, never seem to harm him. Even though Mexico feels like a long, long time ago, that was obviously the most recent round when we were heading into Brazil. So Max will have felt, oh God, I'm under it again. I'm being picked on again and stuff like that. But I mean, what an absolutely amazing drive he did, and I think a lot of the fans as well probably forgot that. Obviously, Sebastian was a bit angry about him. The FIA were a bit angry about him. Stuff like that, because obviously, what happened in Brazil, but that was just he gave that no second thought, did he, JT? He just drove his own race, and obviously what a race it was as well. He didn't just do a normal race, no overtaking and blah blah blah. Obviously, as I say, 13 overtakes in the remaining 16 laps is absolutely unbelievable, isn't it?
It was absolutely incredible. Seriously, that if this guy hasn't actually stamped his authority in Formula 1 to become a legend in the future, then I think he already has now. To be fair, that was an absolutely superb drive. No one else predicted it as well, because with it being such a rainy race, they were just constantly changing tyres from the intermediates to the wets, from the wets to the intermediates. Red Bull did about 4 pit stops for Max Verstappen, going on from the intermediates to the wets. And when he went back on the wets for the I think it was the 4th and final time, he just drove superbly, going on the obviously the end of the centre S's, going on the outside where there's more grip. He did a superb overtake on Nico Rosberg in about the first few laps, if you remember. Superb, and he just did it again and again and again. And I remember I was watching the race, and remember the commentators saying, Max Verstappen can get P4, but we think Checo was too far ahead. No, he caught him with 3-4 laps to go. It was an immense drive. And I think now, a lot of people have been saying afterwards about after the Grand Prix, comparing him to some really good Formula 1 drivers, legends such as Michael Schumacher and Senna. Obviously, a prime example who was very good in the wets, as he was famously known for. And people have been comparing him to that, and that's pretty much what the debate is about. Because it's should we really be comparing Max Verstappen to somebody like Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher, the stature they have in Formula 1. Because Max Verstappen is 19 years old, he's got a lot to prove in Formula 1. He's only been in the sport 2 years, and ever since he came to Red Bull, he's just, shone. Now, obviously, go back to what Elsie was saying about the Mexican Grand Prix when he had a bit of a squabble with Sebastian Vettel, and he has had some squabbles with Kimi Raikkonen, let's say the Ferraris this season. And people have just been saying, well, is Max Verstappen really going to be this good, or is it just a driver that every so often he just shines and people rant and rave about him? Because at the Spanish Grand Prix where he won in his debut Grand Prix, yes, the Mercedes crashed out, but he won the race, fantastic. Then the following Grand Prix in Monaco, he crashed out. Then the following Grand Prix after that in Austria, he did well. He had a good drive. And the same again in Mexico. He had an average drive, and people were a bit like, Max Verstappen could be doing this, he could be doing this better, could be doing that better. He was criticised for being too aggressive on Nico Rosberg, going into the first corner, which is what we discussed in the last episode, I believe, or the episode before. And now at the Brazilian Grand Prix, it was just absolutely tremendous. So if I'm going to have a my say on it about Max Verstappen, I've rated him before, and I've said in previous episodes, give him the right car, he will deliver, and he will probably, I think he'll beat Max Schumacher's record in terms of championships. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but that is just my overall opinion. But if you compare him to drivers like them, the great drivers, even Lewis Hamilton, he is an F1 great, linking him to become, like that. I mean, I think people do need to be careful in, just to pretty much say, like, calm down a bit, let's say, on Max Verstappen, and maybe not go too hyper about him. A bit like what they did in Spain, because they did just that when they won the race, and I was like, oh, this kid's gonna be the next big thing. The past few races have proved he is human. So, Elsie, I know you are a bit of a Ayrton Senna fan. Would you compare him, Max Verstappen, to Ayrton Senna? Do you think that he's going to be like Ayrton Senna, or do you think it's going to be maybe his younger years are going to be his best days? Maybe as he gets older, he might not be as good as what he is now, if you know what I mean.
I'm not too sure. I mean, at the moment, probably not. Now, obviously, he's a very young driver, and that's not. I don't think that's what he'll be wanting to think, because obviously, as you know, Ayrton Senna, I mean, he's not the most successful driver on paper by far. Obviously, there's many drivers who have beaten him, and obviously, Matt Schumacher top trumps him in terms of statistics on paper. But Ayrton Senna, obviously, an amazing name in Formula 1. So as soon as Max, he is that, people are saying that he's going to be like that. I mean, again, like what you said, JT, a lot of people are saying, obviously, done it in 1993, they're comparing that. So obviously, you think Ayrton Senna, one of his best races, and yeah, obviously, you'll get a big hot head, and that's not what he needs to be doing. And again, like what you said, Spain, that's what he did. He got a massive hot head from it, and obviously he was saying to all the news pundits and all, he was saying, I haven't slept, I've just been like, I've just been ecstatic, it's been unbelievable. I mean, I'm an 18-year-old winner. That's probably never, ever, ever going to be beaten in Formula 1, ever. I mean, for a long time, probably until the existence of Formula 1. I think that'll stand. I mean, it is, you can be 20 years old, but you can't be 18. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's 1 year after you're allowed to drive in the UK. That's crazy, crazy.
It's unheard of, guys. Really is.
And anyway, so obviously Max Verstappen, being compared to Ayrton Senna, maybe it's a bit dangerous for him at the moment, because, as you remember, JT, obviously Monaco, which, I mean, you can kind of see the similarities in Abu Dhabi. So obviously Monaco, the next race, I mean, what did he do? He crashes in qualifying, and then he crashes in the race. Obviously, again, I mean, maybe that's just a bit of, obviously a bit of unluckiness, if you like. But maybe he did that in Monaco because he was a bit like, oh, come on, I've got too much pressure on us now. But the good pressure, not the bad pressure, not the, come on, Max, you need to do well. It's like almost like, right, Max, you've won in Spain, you need to retain that, and you need to grow from it. And obviously, people were thinking that he was going to win in Monaco, possibly, but they were expecting good things, and they weren't expecting him to obviously crash into the wall. I think it was Sandevot in qualifying, and then like coming into sector 3 on the last lap near the Sunfield chicane, I believe. But anyway, obviously crashed into the barriers, just to kind of like a rookie mistake, and it is as well. Obviously, drivers colliding with the barriers in Monaco, it's a tight circuit, and if you can't do that, then see ya. So and obviously, as we know, JT, Ayrton could do that. Multiple winners in Monaco in the Principality. So at the moment, maybe it's a bit of a dangerous thing to compare Max to Ayrton Senna, but obviously, absolutely unbelievable driver. And now the last thing we're going to talk about Max is his future. Now, obviously, he's very much safe at Red Bull Racing, but it's about what he is going to achieve in the future. Now, again, we're not talking about him going to Ferrari, or talking about Mercedes, I mean, anything like that, even though, obviously, it's everyone's dream to go to Ferrari. We're going to say about Red Bull Racing, obviously, what's going to happen here. And JT, the biggest thing by far we have to mention when we're talking about Red Bull is, obviously, do you see Sebastian Vettel in Max Verstappen? Is Seb, because obviously, as we know, Seb, you know, won with Toro Rosso, then obviously went to Red Bull, 1 season at Red Bull, and then, you know, 4, and, you know, the rest you know. So is Max resembling Seb, or is he kind of going to write his own history books?
I think when Seb came into the ranks, Red Bull were just going from a midfield team to a championship winning team. Obviously, he went in 2009, and that was when Red Bull pretty much, that was their first year of pure dominance. However, obviously, Brawn sort of stopped them from that at the beginning of the season. Red Bull lost out to them at the start. Now, if it would have been on a level playing field, I think Vettel would have probably would have won the championship in 2009. So, and then obviously he had that success, so he's pretty much built into the success. A bit like what Lewis Hamilton did when he came into McLaren. He kind of came into a big team, whereas Seb kind of was lucky. Let's say he was lucky to actually fall into that trap. Red Bull now, they're on a rebuilding course. Now, as I've just said before, the success from 2010, 2013, amazing. 2014, 2015, 2016 haven't been to Red Bull standard. This season's probably been the best they've had since that success. But Red Bull want to be challenging Mercedes. They don't want to be challenging Ferrari for P2 and P3. They want to be up there with them guys, and they have got a really good driver lineup to actually do that. I mean, look for Malaysia 2016 for example, for this year. That's how Malaysia 2013 should have went, and that just proves, that race there, how good the team chemistry is between those two drivers and how good they actually are. An experienced driver in Ricciardo and a lot of talent in Max Verstappen. And I do see the signs of Seb in obviously I do see the signs of Seb in Sebastian Vettel, but I do know what you mean, Elsie. Yes, I do see that there is greatness coming out of this kid, and there's a lot of hype around Sebastian Vettel. But maybe let's go back to when Ayrton Senna was coming in through the ranks. There was a lot of hype around him because of his performance in Monaco. I think beforehand, I could be wrong here, I don't think there was as much hype around him. But then again, because we live in a world more full of media and social media and newspapers and stuff like that, it was a lot different back then. So maybe there was like a lot of hype behind the scenes instead of just like, you know, on the media front. And then obviously when Senna did that in Monaco, 1984, I believe, or 90, I was 1984, yes, for Tolman, and that was when, wow, you know, this kid is going to be the next big thing. As James Hunt famously said, this kid is going to be world champion this season, but he's undoubtedly going to be world champion in the future. This is Max Verstappen. He's not going to be world champion this season, but undoubtedly he's going to be world champion in the future. And comparing it to those two sayings, you are going to get greatness out of him. It just depends how great you're going to get it. And Max Verstappen, he needs to he just need to let the expectations get to his head. If he's professional and good enough, he won't be this cocky guy, I'm going to drive like Ayrton Senna, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Then he doesn't win a championship. That'll be a failure of a career. It'll be a waste of a career. So he needs to keep his head on. He needs to keep his feet firmly on the ground, remain focused, do the job he needs to do, and maybe one day, Elsie, he can win a championship. I really hope he does. Actually, just the final question, Elsie, on this. Will he win a championship with Red Bull? Or maybe does he have to go further afield to actually win one in Formula 1?
No, I think he'll win it with Red Bull. Yes. I think the obviously, as we are at the moment in the driver lineup and things like that, I don't think Max Verstappen will leave. I think he will be with Red Bull for a very long time. Now, again, I can't think about where else he would leave, but I think he'll want to win with Red Bull Racing because he will want to. Obviously, he's been in the Red Bull Junior program. Obviously, he's been through Toro Rosso, and he's been given that chance, which I think it's almost like something that you can't pay back someone. It's like they've done an unbelievable thing for you. It's like you can't all the money in the world won't kind of heal that. So I think he'll win it with Red Bull Racing. They'll want to give him that chance as well because obviously they believe so much in him as well. Yeah. Obviously they have everything works. Max Verstappen and Red Bull work. I don't think he'll go anywhere else. I mean, as I say, Ferrari, Mercedes, and all that. Possibly, but very, 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 very late on. It might even be like a Fernando Alonso thing to do when he left Renault to go to Ferrari, or even obviously when he left Ferrari to go to McLaren. So might be. But I think he'll win it with Red Bull Racing. What do you think? Do you think he'll win it with Red Bull?
I think he will. Yes, I think Red Bull will give him a good car in the future. I think he might go further afield. They might win some more championships with some other teams, with Ferrari or maybe even Mercedes. Maybe even another team that comes into Formula 1 might dominate in the future. Because obviously he's only 19, he's going to be in Formula 1 hopefully for another 10, 20 years perhaps. Obviously we don't know. So obviously let's see how that does. Or let's see how that goes in the future. I'm pretty sure it is going to be a very good career for Max Verstappen. So the next topic we're going to move on to is some slightly, well, very bad news in a way, Elsie. It's very sad news, isn't it? Well, here on the F1 Debate Show, we have brought some, good news recently with drivers going here, young drivers coming into teams, obviously saying farewell to some other drivers. Obviously that was sad. But another departure in F1 is the news that Ron Dennis is leaving McLaren. He's leaving Formula 1 altogether, guys. And this news came about was because apparently some Chinese investors were going to buy McLaren for a reported fee of about $1.5 billion, I believe, which is a lot of money, let's say. And he's recently, even like weeks before that, he was under the cosh with McLaren because of their performances. And there was rumour that he was going to step down, he could be sacked, he could be whatever. And now he's officially announced this week that he's leaving. He went to the High Court, he had a battle, he lost. And now he stepped down at his role, and we will say goodbye to Ron Dennis. He's been in Formula 1 for 35 years with McLaren, and then he's been in Formula 1 a lot longer. I think about 1966 was about his first appearance in Formula 1. He used to work with actually the late Jochen Rindt when he was at Cooper Motorsport, I believe, back in 1966, obviously. Worked with him for a good few years, and obviously they parted ways, and obviously at some point in the future, in the 80s, he ended up joining McLaren. He's done he's worked with some brilliant drivers, Prost, Senna, Hakkinen, Lewis Hamilton, obviously, most recently. Obviously, Jensen Button and Fernando Alonso. And obviously, success for McLaren hasn't been as good, and it has been awful, especially from, obviously, a McLaren fan like myself. It is heartbreaking to see, and obviously, for all them F1 oldies out there, you will be gutted to see Ron Dennis go. I'm really, really disappointed about it all, but obviously, someone else has to come in to fill that role, and well, rumour has it just before we actually went on air, there was actually some news that a guy called Zach Brown, a guy who works in motorsport, who is a very high in the motorsport money-wise industry, he's a very rich businessman, who's very good friends with Chase Carey and Bernie Ecclestone. And he's rumoured to have a seat with McLaren. He's going to take over Ron Dennis's role at CEO. McLaren have offered him, but he's also linked to work with Liberty Media, who obviously came into Formula 1 to buy the sport. Obviously, with him being good friends with Chase Carey, it will make sense. So, obviously, there's two sides you could go with it. You could go to McLaren, which is heavily linked with. He's more favourite to go to McLaren than he is to work with Liberty Media. But obviously, you could argue, say, right, Liberty Media, obviously, he knows Chase Carey. And I haven't heard much about this guy, so I don't know what he has to offer. But obviously, I do know that he has a lot of money with him. So let's hope he can bring some dollar with him and maybe make McLaren great again. And now next season, it's going to be good. I hope he does come in before the end of the season, throughout the winter. Let's have a good stability in the team, and let's not do it like halfway through the winter, or maybe like in March, where like, all right, new season, let's get going. Or let's bring this guy in who's just randomly came in from nowhere and then make the team unstable again, because McLaren need to pretty much build back their success. So, obviously, some sad news, Elsie. Obviously, Ron Dennis leaving Formula 1, leaving McLaren after so many years of success. I'm devastated. I'm sure you're devastated. I'm sure Formula 1 itself is very, very gutted. But do you think maybe now is a good time to step down for Ron Dennis because of he's had the success, he's won Drivers' Championships, he's won Constructors' Championships, he's had some good times with McLaren, he's had some really bad times with McLaren. Obviously, the spy scandal in 2008, when McLaren got kicked out of the Constructors' Championship, where we could have won it that year, but let's not forget. So now, do you think this is a good time to step down from Formula 1, or do you think maybe Ron Dennis should have stayed in that bit longer and maybe help McLaren and get back where they were?
I think it's good from his character, because obviously he wanted to be CEO. He was CEO for all those years. Now, I don't know too much, but I don't think he would have been offered. He probably would have been offered maybe another position in the team, but he didn't want that. I think it's good that he jumped before he was pushed, if you get what I mean. I mean, obviously, people were saying, he was kicked out. Obviously, that's what like Sky Sports said and BBC Sport and all these things. We were saying that he was being kicked out or like pushed out or whatever. But obviously, as JT said, we kind of believe that he stepped down of his own accord. I mean, obviously, Ron Dennis, unbelievable career, absolutely unbelievable. He is the face of McLaren, if you get what I mean. I mean, obviously, Bruce McLaren is the face of McLaren, but you have, Ron, he built McLaren. Obviously, like you had Ross Brawn, who built obviously so many great teams. He built obviously Braun because of his name. He also built Mercedes in their like coming back years. As you had many names, obviously you've got Adrian Newey linked with Red Bull. You've got Ron Dennis in McLaren. I think Ron Dennis and McLaren go hand in hand. I think if anything, if you said to somebody on the street, like your mind got muddled up, and you said, you know, Jensen drives for Dennis F1, then they'd be like, you know, Ron Dennis is the face of McLaren. So it's very sad from that. But you know, it's all, at least it's all on the up and up for McLaren. Obviously, they're getting more interest and things like that. They're getting those Chinese investors, which we did know about. Obviously, I think it was Bahrain last year was a big talking point. That's when obviously Ron Dennis, he was basically sat in the garage all day. He didn't even watch the race because he was just talking to them. You know, what's going to happen now? It's a bit like how they haven't had a proper team principal. It's just kind of working stuff out. But as I say, I mean, Ron going, there's not much to say about that really. It's just Ron going absolutely
and also as well, Elsa, he's been under a lot of pressure because ever since Vodafone left as the title sponsor of McLaren, they haven't really found one, have they? Obviously, the car and the driver overalls have been, you know, just plain. I mean, this is 2015. It's literally white with just a couple of like Pirelli and stuff like that. You know, McLaren do need a title sponsor. Ron Dennis didn't really provide that, and that could be because of McLaren's performances, but he has been under a lot of pressure because of that.
Exactly.
So, and obviously
I mean, that is hard. Obviously, as you know, their success, as you just said, JT. I mean, obviously, like 2010, 2011, 2012, they were covered in sponsors. Obviously, 2013 they had a lot of sponsors like Lucas Aiden, obviously Johnny Walker and Vodafone. They left during 2013 because of their lack of success. And obviously, 2014 it went just completely white. It's a bit like Red Bull, to be honest, JT. I can actually compare it to Red Bull. Obviously, when we had the age of Sebastian Vettel, 2013, I don't have the top, but obviously we were covered in logos, we were covered in sponsors and things like that. You know, we had purple stripes and just everything was just covered in logos. The car was covered in logos. 2014 again, we had Infinity and it was stuff like that, sponsors. We lost quite a lot in 2015, and then now 2016, which by the way was supposed to be quite a bland year for Red Bull. Obviously, we lost Renault as like a sponsor. We lost Infinity as a sponsor. We also lost. We couldn't call our Renault engine a Renault car. We had to call it Tag Heuer. So again, apart from obviously the big sponsor, which was Tag Heuer coming in, we lost quite a lot of sponsors. And obviously, that's when we went to that matte blue with red on the car, and then that was it. You know, very little sponsors when we had Tag Heuer and stuff. Anyway, so I'm getting rambling, but so obviously, losing sponsors, losing money and things like that. But the big thing is though, JT, it comes back to what you've always said about Formula 1 and what we've always said about Formula 1 is, unfortunately, we don't like to kind of accept this, but money, that's it. Money runs Formula 1, and it doesn't matter who you are. That's the thing. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, obviously, it just shows there. Obviously, Ron Dennis, an amazing person and absolutely an amazing ambassador for Formula 1 and everything in between. Worked with some unbelievable drivers. And, you know, just money. It just shows money runs Formula 1.
I'm pretty sure Ron Dennis and Ross Brawl might go for a spot of fishing at some point. I don't know what. I don't think Ron Dennis will come back to Formula 1. This might be his retirement. I think he's about in his late 60s, I believe. Ron Dennis is. He might go off to another team. I don't know. Else, I don't know what the future holds for Ron Dennis.
Stop your Formula 1. I mean, you know, just keep going.
But also, he's 85 or something, 83 or something. I don't know how old he is. He's old. He's ancient. Like that. But, so he might get a role with Liberty. Everybody's linked with the role with bloody Liberty Media at the moment. We could be going to Liberty Media.
How good would that be? F1 Debate Show sponsored by Liberty Media.
Liberty Media.
Anyway,
and
so
actually, Ron, just quickly, I'll say Ron Dennis, if you're watching this, one, subscribe. Two, we'll offer you a role on the F1 Debate
for a
Show
small fee,
for about 20 pence. 20 pence an episode, Elsie.
Yeah, well, every little helps. Anyway, so our next topic is basically we're going to talk about our F1 Debate Show Drive of the Days award. Now, obviously, as we know, when we started this channel, we had the idea to give a Drive of the Day award. Now, you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, LC and JT, you didn't invent Drive of the Day awards. The Formula 1 did, but we give it to people who Formula 1 didn't. We give it to drivers who have performed themselves in a great way. For example, like our first driver, who I'm just going to mention in a minute, who, you know, it doesn't matter what they do in the race, it doesn't matter where they finish, as long as they've shown progress, we will give it to them. Now, granted, we haven't given it to a Sauber driver yet, but obviously that's how it's shown. So anyway, I'm going to run through them quickly, and then again, it just obviously we're getting very close to the end of the season. Only one Driver of the Day award left. Sorry, we have two before we give Brazil's away. Then we have one in Abu Dhabi. Season opener, we had Roman Grosjean. Obviously, his amazing points finish for Haas really was this is history in the making, and that's what his radio message was to the team, this is history. This is history right here, guys. He did it again in Bahrain, but JT, we had to give it to the man who, obviously, you're wearing the team. The new guy, the guy who's going to be in Formula 1 next year, replacing Jenson Button, but the guy who had won race with McLaren, wasn't even a Formula 1 driver, but for some reason, he scored points.
Incredible.
And that was Stoffel Van Dorn, so just an unbelievable achievement from him. Now, China, okay? China is the biggest one that we have to mention. Now, the controversy around this man, that the crash, you came in like a torpedo. Big, quote. But he still managed to finish an amazing third. It is Daniel Kvyat. Absolutely unbelievable from him. Russia was Kimi Räikkönen. Unbelievable drive from him. Probably had some vodka afterwards. But absolutely unbelievable. To finish on the podium in that race was absolutely amazing. And then, as I say, JT, 5th round, race winner, chicken dinner was Max Verstappen, the 18-year-old for Red Bull Racing. History in the making right there. For Monaco, we had Sergio Perez, absolutely unbelievable race from him. And then in Canada, which I presented on my own, we had Valtteri Bottas. He loves this track. He loves this. To be honest, I don't know why, but I associate Valtteri Bottas with Canada for some strange reason. But yeah, he really does. And he does a good performance. Then we went to the next round, which was Baku, a brand new circuit, and that went back home to Mexico with Sergio Perez. Then we went to Austria, where car number 22, Jenson Button, took home the prize after qualifying an amazing 2nd place on the first row of the grid and 2nd position for the race, which is absolutely amazing. Obviously finished in the points. Great performance. We were going to give it to Pascal Wehrlein. Yes. No, we told you we were going to give it to Pascal, but we were Verlaine.
Wow.
Come on.
Anyway, that's top-notch stuff there, lads.
Silverstone, it was the same as Formula 1. We had to give it to Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, we saw him, an amazing weekend from him. In Germany, we gave it to the man who had his 100th Grand Prix, Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely an amazing ride from him. And then for Hungary, we gave it to Fernando Alonso, the brand new driver, the 3rd driver in McLaren to stand on that Driver of the Day award podium and take home the glory. Belgium was given to Lewis Hamilton after his amazing drive from his 10,000 place grid penalty, which absolutely was great from him. And then it went to Sebastian Vettel in Italy, and then in the next round in Singapore. So absolutely back-to-back, the first back-to-back of our F1 debate shows, kind of the running of it. Japan went to the man who we've just been talking about in the F1 debate show, Max Verstappen. So he had 2 to his name, which was great by him. The youngest, if you can count that, I don't know, probably not, because it's only been going this year. The next round in Malaysia, obviously that was won by his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. He won in Malaysia, again making it 2 at Red Bull, so 4 driver of the days, 2 drivers on the grid for Red Bull Racing. The next round, which was the United States Grand Prix, it went to Fernando Alonso again. And then the next round saw the new 3rd man who had won it 3 times. It was Sebastian Vettel in Mexico. Absolutely amazing by him. So he takes the lead, and he is sitting at the top on 3. So there's 1 driver on 3, 5 drivers on 2, and then there's a 7, I think, off the top of my head, in 1st place. But that's all about to change, isn't it, JT?
It is, Elsie. Yes, Elsie, because now we are going to announce who is our driver of the day for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Now, obviously, this driver, well, do we need to say any more about this driver, Elsie? He's had an absolutely amazing season with Red Bull. He's won many Driver of the Day awards for Formula 1. I think it's 8 he's won now for the Formula 1 on the F1 website. So obviously you already know who it is. We've discussed him, we've ranted and raved about him in this episode. It is obviously Max Verstappen, who... Is this his 3rd one, Elsie? Is this his 3rd driver?
3rd, so he's tied with Sebastian Vettel at the top.
All going down. It's all going down to the wire, guys. Who needs Rosberg Hamilton? You've got Vettel Verstappen for the Driver of the Day award. So yes, this is obviously going 1st class all the way to... the Netherlands or Monaco or America or wherever Max Verstappen lives, Elsie. I don't know where he lives, but obviously 1st class. But he did even send us an email. Obviously, he sent us emails, and he did. I'll just quickly get up for you. And he said, "Thank you very much for awarding me the F1 Debate Show Driver of the Day award, the most prestigious trophy in Formula 1. All this success to my family, to my friends, to my dad who got me into this position, and for you two for presenting such a wonderful show." Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice, Elsie? That is absolutely amazing, Elsie.
Nice,
I hope to win many more, and I hope to become the most successful F1 Debate Show Driver of the Day award driver ever. Love, Verstappen.
Well,
And then underneath, just Kim Raikkonen. Blah, there we go. So that's about it. So yes, that was our driver of the debate. Driver of the day.
Kimmy did win one. So when we turned up to the FIA Autosport Awards and he says, "Well, why didn't Kimmy Raikkonen win too?" And we can just sit there and go, "Wah."
Pretty much.
We don't know. But anyway, yeah. So that is the end of F1 Debate Show episode 33. We're steaming through this. So obviously, thank you very much for watching this episode. The next round is the last round.
Last one.
Can't believe we're
only a few episodes left of the season, guys. Of the season. So obviously we've got this episode, but technically the next F1 Debate Show is our last F1 Debate Show, which is like in the season, if you get what I mean. So, God, it's. So what does that mean for the winter?
It's all. I'm just gonna say, come on, stay tuned. What is going to happen in the winter? That is. Start attack if you like. But yeah, anyway, so we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and do everything else that we like. Make sure you catch our previous video, which was the F1 Debate Show episode 32, which obviously was which featured our first guest on the F1 Debate Show, Raz and F1. So obviously, please go and give that a view. Also, give our 31, which has over 1,000 likes. Views. I wish likes.
1,000 people have watched our video. Wow, that's amazing.
Wow, like that's amazing. Obviously, second video to do that. So now we're up to about 11k views, which is great for that. So obviously, please keep going. As I say, we live off you. The F1 Debate Show lives and breathes off you guys. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the last F1 Debate Show of the season. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys. Take care.